All right, welcome everybody to the Belvedere City Council Committee of the Whole of January 8, 2024. If the clerk will help me out with a roll call, please.
Albertini,
Here.
Brereton,
Here.
Fleury,
Here.
Frank,
Here.
Freeman, Gramkowski,
Here.
McGee,
Here.
Mulhall, Mulhall's absent, Snow,
Here.
Stevens,
Here. Thanks.
9 present.
Okay, thank you. We have also tonight registered for public comment. We have former Mayor Fred Brereton. Fred, come on up. Good evening.
Good
Nice to see
evening,
you.
Happy New Year,
Happy New Year.
Mr. Mayor, Madam Clerk, Counselor, members of the council, and department heads. Happy New Year to you, and thank you for your public service. I'm here tonight as an advocate for the National Day of Prayer. The National Day of Prayer is an annual observance held on the first Thursday in May, encouraging people of all faiths to pray for our country. The National Day of Prayer was established by a joint resolution of the United States Congress in 1952 and signed into law by President Harry S. Truman. The Belvedere National Day of Prayer Task Force recognizes that prayer is needed for our country, for our state, and for local government more than one day a year. That's why, in part, this calendar has been put together for everyone's use, and we would encourage you to use this calendar to pray for guidance and direction as you seek to manage this city. We would ask you to use this calendar to pray for one another, for your administration, for your fellow council people, for your department heads. The National Day of Prayer Task Force at the local level meets once a month, the first Thursday of every month, to try to coordinate the events and the activities that take place in our community. We would encourage you for two things. One, that you would pray for that task force, that their work is effective and accepted by you as well as the community as a whole. And lastly, we would ask you to consider, as you will note as a reminder in your prayer calendar that you received tonight, that the first Thursday in May this year is May 2nd. There are two events that we would invite you to consider participating and joining in and helping us to spread the word that our community might be able to come together on that day. First of all, in the morning at 8 o'clock at the community building, and secondly, at Big Thunder Park in a circle of prayer at noon. I leave you today with the words that I left this chamber a little more than a decade ago, with the words from Matthew 5, verses 14 to 16. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. Amen, and God bless you. Mayor, we thank you for your continued support of the National Day of Prayer.
Well, thank you, Fred. Thank you, Mr. Brereton, for coming this evening, and Today being the 8th is, I noticed Wendy, Alderwoman Frank, Wendy Frank is on that list, and I appreciate you coming here. I think it is important. I think not only here, the National Day of Prayer is, it's more important, it seems like, certainly every day. We see some of the things and changes, some of the things that are going on in nationally, statewide, and locally. And I would agree, we need all the prayer we can get, and I appreciate you coming here this evening. Thank you. Okay, next we have Mr. Jeff Peters. Hi, Jeff.
How you doing?
Good, how are you? All right. Well, come on up and you can address the council. Thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you
Welcome.
for having me. Hey y'all, how you doing? Just to start out, reviewing the December 4th City Hall meeting, I have to agree with Mayor Morris. Thank you, honestly, what you said on there and what you stood up for. Alderman Albertini and Alderman Snow, whom have posted thoughts of a 17.3% tax levy, which didn't pass, thank God. However, a 6.6% potentially, I believe. In light of the possible part-time mayor's pay at hand, I want to ask why. Why is that? Of all the mayor that has brought to Belvedere, why this letter that you submitted? It's a slap in the face to him, honestly, and asking him to be part-time for a full-time job. Perhaps you, Alderman Snow, should have to be a part-time pay on your thankless job that you do have. It is all a thankless job for everybody that's here. At a time when many people are struggling with money, finances, and other things, you suggested in a letter dated November 15, 2023, that Mayor Morris goes to a part-time job with a full-time administrator. You did say this? In what?
In the email.
In an email, yeah, so you did. It asked to be, quote, decreased by, say, $40K a year, or increase his pay to 3% above the highest paid employee. Now, does this include a judge or a non-union intern that you're basing this on? These numbers that you put in your email? You said you should have been more clear on that. I believe the city clerk should be raised another $10,000 a year or so, as you had mentioned, and they are underpaid for the work they do. Why all of a sudden an increase to the clerk? You also mentioned the reason of a full-time administrator as the mayor can't do his job, hence needing a full-time administrator. The mayor is a full-time job, isn't it? I would love to see the cost savings to pay for this administrator. Is it possible? As I'm not on Facebook, was it X or whatever they call it, Instagram, I have to ask for me, the public and others, why the interest in making the mayor's job part-time with the administrator. I don't see it on there anywhere. Perhaps you want his job? Is that what that is about? The letter you wrote sounds like a setup for someone who isn't fond of the mayor, truthfully. It sounds like you have some personal issue with Mayor Morris. It's just my observation, and I await your answer on that. I don't know the cost of an administrator, and it's public information. I work for the state of Illinois. You can look my name up. I'm everywhere on there. Of what I make a year, I don't really care. As with Mayor Morris's income is $71,500 a year. It's public information. We are public servants. That's how we roll. How would half his pay save money? And once again, you can't run a calculator. I mean, cut his by $40,000 that you stated in your email and hire a city administrator? I sure hope the aldermen and women vote down this nonsense and show a vote of incompetence to what your email had said. It'd be a joke if this letter came to fruition. Talk about a laughingstock. I guess of the silly thoughts in this letter from November 15th of 23, wouldn't you at least ask Mayor Morris if he wanted to run before changing his title position from underneath him? Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Peters. Okay, that's all we have registered for public comment this evening. Under public forum, we have nobody. We have nothing under public forum. Reports of officers, boards, and special committees. Item A in your packet is a memo from me regarding an appointment of Shannon Hansen to the Fire Pension Board. I did want to make you aware of that. If there's any questions or comments, I'll certainly try and answer them. If not, item B is also the appointment, which we have an opening for, of Ms. Shannon Hansen to the Police Pension Board as well. In your packet is a memo from me dated January 3rd of this year regarding that appointment. And I do want to say that we have lost several individuals who had served on the Fire and Police Pension Boards, and it's very, very difficult to have individuals that do want to serve. But I also, above and beyond that, I think we need to have individuals that have an understanding of what that position does and what that position, how serious that position is. And I appreciate Ms. Hansen being able to take this appointment, be willing to take this appointment. And I know that as in the way she conducts herself as our finance director, we'll all be better for it. So thank you for that. Moving on, item C in your packet is a memo from the city attorney dated January 3rd regarding requests for proposals for solid waste collection within the city of Belvedere. I'll read it for the record. As a council previously directed, we are issuing the attached request for proposals for residential garbage collection within the city of Belvedere. Once we receive proposals from interested waste hauling companies, we will forward the results to the city council for further discussion and direction. And in your packet, of course, was the franchisee request for proposals and what they would essentially be looking at if they were going to provide it. If anybody has any questions about that, I'll try and answer it. Alderman Stevens?
Will this stop the fall leaf pickup?
No.
Okay.
No, in the contract, and Mr. Anderson, you may want to comment on that because, you know, I think that that's part of it. But
It provides an option to us in their interest and see what that cost is, just as comparable to what we do now internally. So we'll see what responses we get, and then we'll go from there.
Another question I have is, I know several people who own businesses and they take their garbage to their business. Does everyone have to have pickup or is it optional?
because somebody takes their garbage to their businesses, I guess we would never know that. I would never know it, but I think this would be anybody, any residential that is going to have garbage collection within the city. We would have this bid put out so that we would be able to, A, do it affordably, the most affordably, and B, I think there's never been any question that whenever you have 3 or 4 garbage trucks running on the same streets, the city taxpayers, our taxpayers, they pay a price for that. And
Yes, I have 3 different companies going down my street, but I've got residents I know that have businesses, so they don't have a residential pickup. They take it to their business and get rid of it.
City attorney?
Typically, yes, it's required for each residence to have collection at that point. If we decide not to go that route, we'd have to negotiate that with whoever the successful bidder was. But part of the reason they bid at the rates they do is on the number of homes that would be serviced.
Any other questions, Alderman Stevens? Alderman Snow?
So, I'm not necessarily opposed to this, but I have had several conversations with people who are opposed because they don't necessarily, they like their company, they've had issues with the others who may or may not win the bid. So just voicing that concern, it'll be interesting to see how this pans out in that regard. And if I recall correctly, as far as leaf pickup, it was going to be like 5 bags up until the height of the leaf season, and then it jumped up to 20, I believe, was a max number on the bags during that period of time. So,
Okay. And, you know, I think we want to keep in mind that I may, or somebody may like their garbage company that picks up their refuse, but it's not about me. It's not about any one person. It's about what's in the best interest of the community. And if we're able to have individuals who have called me, I've had numerous calls and email submissions from residents that have complained that the price of their garbage service is doubled or more. And when I had ran for office, I had made a promise. One of the things that I had promised is that we would take a look at whether or not we can afford this and whether they can do it at a cost savings to our residents, and not only with picking up garbage, but also on the hardship they create on the streets. It really doesn't, to me, it doesn't make good sense if we have an alternative to continue to have 3, 4, 5 different haulers come down the same street to pick up other residents and my hope is that we can eliminate that and also do it more affordably. But, you know, the proof is in the pudding. We'll have to see what these proposals come back as, and after we find that out, then we'll best be able to answer that question of whether or not this is something we wish to proceed with. Alderman Snow?
and when it comes to that, I don't know the logistics, and maybe Brent having more experience in this, but multiple trucks disperse the load on the axle. So instead of having one heavy truck, you have several lighter trucks that may or may not make any difference on the roads or not. I don't know that for sure. But I don't know that that's a huge issue. Could even be a detriment, because now you're gonna have one truck that's more loaded at the end of the day carrying stuff. The other thing is, I did notice in the proposal that it looks like the provider would provide initially a single can for garbage and a single can for recycle at no additional charge. It would be part of the package, so I thought that was good.
Okay, thank you. Alderwoman Freeman?
Thank you. So I've talked to a lot of people, and I haven't heard from a single person that likes this idea. They, like myself, think competition is good, keeps the prices down. You may sign a contract, but at the end of that contract, then your price gets jacked up, right? Because now they got you over a barrel. My question is, when I have a problem with my pickup or my service, or, the guy left garbage in my yard or threw my can or whatever the case may be, I call that company. When the city is basically taking over who you have to have, and you can't call that company and cancel them and hire a different company, who's going to field those calls? Does City Hall have the staff to do that? Because I guarantee you that switchboard is going to be lighting up probably at Public Works.
Well, I think, before you can walk, you have to crawl, and I think there are some unknowns out there potentially. But the first process was, I know you had mentioned that you really liked your garbage man, which is fine. I liked mine too, but I could probably like a new one if he was going to save me more money, and I think every resident looks at it like that. The council had decided as a majority to go forward to obtain these requests for proposals, and that's really the next step we're at. So as we continue down here and we get the proposals back, I think we can probably evaluate it based upon the information we have chosen as a council to go forward. I know it wasn't unanimous, but the majority speaks, and that's the path that we've decided to take. The rest of the, any of the rest of the intangibles, we should be able to work them out, so. Alderman Albertini?
Thank you, Mayor. I have just a few questions. They're pretty primary. On the beginning of this information sheet for the request for this, it says here that they should submit a receipt by the city of Belvedere before for this proposal. There's no date. Are we leaving this open-ended and just decide when we've run out of enough people to come, or do we have a date that we want to set for these proposals? Because the line's left blank.
It was left blank on purpose. Staff, the only reason we're providing this to you now is, as an FYI, that we're still moving forward with this. When the staff sends this out to the, first of all, we'll publish the RFP, but then we plan on also sending the RFP to all the current licensees that service the city of Belvedere. And we'll put a date in there. My guess is we'll probably do something the end of March or mid-March, so that there's plenty of time to bring it back and have the council decide whether or not they want to move forward and be ready for a May 1 implementation, which is when those current licenses expire on April 30th. So, yes, that date will be put in there, but we'll take care of that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Drolla. My next question is, on page 2 of this, they show that the terms in the agreement shall start on May 1st, 2024. But the termination date is left open as well. Is there gonna be or is this gonna be a year to year? Is this gonna be just forever until we decide we don't like them and then terminate them? Or why is there no termination date for the contract?
Because we'll wait and see what the bids come back at and see if they're willing to do a 2, 3, 4, 1-year contract.
Okay, got that. And my last question on this matter is, the additional 65-gallon recycle cart shall be provided by the commercial contractor at a price identified in an exhibit, and there's no exhibit A or B or reasoning, or is there no reason for that too?
Because they'll have to be the ones that tell us what their pricing is. In other
Okay,
words,
so
if
we
they-
have
if
no
they- if-
exhibit to
if somebody
consider.
wants- If somebody wants a second or third garbage can, the garbage company will have to tell us what the pricing they're gonna seek is and provide us that exhibit.
Okay, I understand it now. I just saw empty spaces and I thought I should fill them in. All right, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Alderwoman Freeman?
Thank you. So you're absolutely right. I do like my garbage man, and I like the service he provides. I don't like my neighbors, who I watch dump garbage all over the street, and I myself have gone over and picked it up multiple times. I don't think it's fair that the city may force me to have that guy as my garbage man, while at the same time having a hand in putting my man out on the unemployment line.
What would happen if you happened to like that individual, if the garbage franchisee didn't go to the guy that was dumping garbage on your street? You may like him and you may save money, right?
So
Is that a
is
possibility?
that really a chance I'm willing to take? I like the guy I have now. And my garbage bill is less than $15 a week for the excellent service I get.
Well, that may be the provider, but we don't know until we find out. I would think we want to educate ourselves and look at all of our options. I know I do. Okay, anything else? Okay. Thank you for that. Turning the next page, item 1, building, planning, zoning, unfinished business, we have none. We have item 2, building, planning, zoning, new business, item A, building department update, Mr. Countryman,
Thank you, Mayor.
thank you.
For the month of December, it was a little slower than usual. We issued 38 permits for a value of construction at 92 million, just under 300,000. 10 of those were commercial, 28 were residential. Some projects of note, we have under review right now 2 single-family homes, 1222 Crosslink for a tenant build-out. We issued Club Car Wash, Project Yukon for foundation and steel. The Fuel Center is moving along. And we have sent out 49 letters for the feather signs. The first of the year is when we'll start going around town and doing a check on those, but as of now, we probably got 90% compliance with the letters that we sent out. I'll back up a little bit. Wanted to give a shout out to my staff. They worked really hard over the past year. We did another great year. A total of 1,183 permits for the year of 2023 for a value of construction of $153,540,706, which is just under what we did in 2022. 176 of those were commercial, 1,007 were residential, 8 single-family homes, for a total permit fees, not including enterprise zone discount, of $1,013,717.67, and I'll open that up for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Countryman? Alderwoman Freeman?
Thank you again. So, if you mentioned Dunkin' Donuts, I missed it, and I apologize, but have they hit a snag? It seems like their progress is pretty slow.
You say the Phil Center? They've got the foundation in. They had a little snag with the water service, but there were guys there today working. I don't know if they're waiting for the foundation to cure out, materials to be delivered, but they're crawling along.
Any other questions for Kip? Alderman Albertini?
Thank you, Mayor. Kip, around, and I can't think of where, but on State Street, just off the corner, there's a house with a big red garage. And somebody's telling me that they're talking about turning that into a living quarters. Are you familiar with that?
What part of State Street?
You know where Mitzi's Barber is?
Yeah.
Okay, it's across the street and about a half a block up down the side street. Off of the corner there's a big house, then it has a great big red garage. And some of the neighbors said they saw that they were looking to build this into a residence for living. If not, I'll get the address for you in the future.
Staff's aware of the property in question. Staff has sent a letter out to the property owner. Staff is continuing to monitor the property to see if there is any activity that's not normal going on with the large garage in the back. At this time, staff hasn't noticed any.
Okay, because I have a resident who
activity that-
reported a delivery of drywall to that garage. So just something you may want to keep an eye on. Because it's not permitted for this, is that correct?
That is correct, and as I've stated, staff is currently monitoring the residents. We don't see any illegal activity going on at this time that warrants a residence being in the garage.
Okay, thank you very much, I appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Countryman? Okay, hearing none, thank you, Kip.
Thank you, Mayor.
We have item B, under 2, item B, Planning Zoning Department, Ms. Delrose.
Thank you. Cases are slow in the wintertime. People generally don't think of their special uses and variances until they go to pull a building permit. So I have been handing out a lot of applications, so I expect it to start picking up pretty quickly with public hearings. Otherwise, downtown reviews are still going on. Quite a few buildings have had facade updates, zoning verification, which shows that properties are being sold. Typically, you need a zoning verification when you're getting a mortgage. The bank wants to know that it's a good investment. So as those continue to hold steady, that shows that the properties in town are buying and selling. Historic Preservation had the winter off. I did meet with a commission member yesterday to go over some future fundraising ideas that they are working on. So I expect that to start picking up as well. Aussie Hometown Christmas happened in December. Still moving forward with the comp plan. I did reach out with them today for a status update. They were hoping to get a draft plan to me, a draft of draft chapters, not the whole plan, but about half of it by the end of the year. I'm assuming the holidays got in the way, so I did reach out for a status update today on that. Otherwise, still working on the facade grant. We've got about half those projects reimbursed. One applicant has requested an extension because the windows are on back order, and I'm still trying to get a hold of the other two. Attending the watershed meetings with Brent and doing some public outreach.
Okay, thank you, Gina. Any questions for Gina? Alderwoman Freeman?
Thank you again. So, that building that used to have all those boats and RVs and stuff there,
EJRs.
on State.
Yep.
I think I saw a sign that it's gonna be like a shingle roofing company thing now, maybe?
So there's two. There's Katie's Automotive, that
Yeah, no, no.
top notch, but EJR. So EJR Technologies. Jack Barnes retired. For those that don't know, so EJR Technologies has moved to Jack Barnes's location on Newburgh. There are several Locust. Sorry, yeah, West Locust. There are several entities that were interested in the EJR building, the white one. One of them was a roofing company was interested. I won't go into the details of the pros and cons, but the last I heard, they were going to look elsewhere because, not that it's bad, but they were kind of borderline half commercial, half industrial. So if you're going to make an investment, you want to make an investment that you can grow into your use and not be trapped on the commercial end and not be able to grow into that industrial end that you are also kind of bordering on. So last I heard, they were going to look elsewhere.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good news from IEPA. I received notice that our new well 11, they intend to issue our loan agreement soon, and they've also indicated to us that they have enough emerging contaminants principal forgiveness funding available as bypass money to cover the full loan amount for our well 11 project, and that includes the drilling contract and also the engineering and the construction engineering associated with that contract for a total of, in round numbers, $1,479,000. So, excellent news. Phase one will be covered by basically a 100% grant from EPA for that phase. So, that contract is about a year-long contract time-wise. Hopefully, it doesn't take that long to get that work completed, because then as soon as that's done, they'll begin working on, and we'll go through the design process here coming up shortly to get that piece of the puzzle moving, get the design work finished so that we can go out to bid and go through the loan process for phase two, which is the well facility itself. And other news, of course, Mother Nature's supposed to snow tonight, overnight, so could be our first major snow of the season. Reports vary. Timing is, they keep wavering back and forth, anywhere between 9 p.m. tonight and 1 a.m. Supposedly a start time, anywhere from 6 to 10 inches they're still calling for, is the latest reports. So Street Department, Public Works Department will be in full force and effect overnight and tomorrow through the storm, and then we're supposed to have some follow-up snowfalls possibly the next few days. They're looking at maybe Friday, Saturday as another, could be accumulating snowfall then as well. So winter is here. That's all I have.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Anderson? Alderwoman Freeman?
Thank you. So Brent, could you just remind people that after 2 inches, you cannot park on the street, but we do have municipal lots that they can park there for free?
We have municipal lot number 5 AKA the former Oktoberfest lot, which is across from City Hall and kitty corner across the rail tracks. That lot is specifically set up for parking and snow removal. You were allowed to do that for a period of, I think it's 24 hours to park there. And then by that time, once we have the remaining parking lots in the city streets cleared, then you can, of course, you can park back in front of your house or on the streets and the remainder of the parking lots. The snow emergency, our snow emergency will go into effect probably yet tonight, probably 9, 10 o'clock, we'll put that into effect. And that'll be in place once we get 2 inches of snow, no parking on city streets until they're completely cleared.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Anderson? Okay, thank you, Brent. And item B, long-awaited 6th Street low-flow channel construction services. Brent?
Memo in your packet. Martin Construction has been awarded the contract for the 6th Street low-flow channel project in the amount of $283,485.09. Attached to this memo is a proposal from CES for construction services on a time and material basis not to exceed cost of $18,000. That represents a 6.3% of the contract cost for the project. I would recommend approval of the construction services proposal from CES in an amount not to exceed $18,000 for the 6th Street low flow channel project. This work will be paid for from line item 015-751-8058, which is capital funds. We did receive a $10,000 grant through Commonwealth Edison for a portion of the cost on the restoration end of this project, which will occur in the spring. Martam Construction has begun work on the channel itself. In fact, they were pouring some concrete today. I think the weather in the next few days is probably going to push them back for a little bit, but work has begun on that project.
Okay, if I could get a motion to that effect, please. Thank you. Alderwoman Mulhall, motion and a second. Anybody? Alderman McGee, thank you. Any questions, any comments? Alderwoman Freeman?
Thank you once again. So, I don't know, maybe there's a reason for this, or maybe I'm naive, but seems like construction services should be part of the bid that the construction company that was awarded this project, and like they should be paying for this?
No, construction services is there's two portions on the engineering side. You get the engineering design work done for the design of the project, and then construction services takes care of the requirements of staking the project, inspecting it on the city's behalf, doing the pay estimates, doing the payroll, getting all the details in as far as materials, certifications, all the things required to do a closeout of the project to make sure everything was built to the line and grade and how it was supposed to be as designed in the design. So all of our engineering projects, all of our construction projects has those two phases, and some even have more. Some has preliminary engineering, then design engineering, then construction services. But construction services for city projects, for our public works projects, is always a component of a project.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Anderson? Alderman Snow?
So would that dollar amount have been built into the, our estimate initially as to what we thought the whole project would cost?
Correct, yes, it has.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, any comments? Brent, how long is this project? I know part of the flood relief that we had talked about originally, I know this project was in the works long before I took office in 2021. But I think, they have an Army Corps of Engineer issue with that, or is that correct, or?
There's been designation, yes, there have been changes in designation of what is a wetland and what is a navigable waterway, what is a waterway. With federal government, those regulations have changed back and forth. So yes, it was, our initial inquiries into permitting for this project began in 2018. And it was a long battle through those changes and through the Corps of Engineers to get where we are now that we are under construction with the design. Not to belabor it, but the original design was for a concrete low-flow channel, basically make it a hard surface, and the cost and the remediation, environmental remediation requirements that went along with that were astronomical. So we did a redesign, making it a wet bottom, which is what was eventually approved by the DNR and through the EPA as well, so that the channel itself will be free. Instead of a hard bottom, it's going to be a wet bottom, which when it rains, we get the additional rainfall, it'll just go on top of the water that's already there, so it won't be going through all the reeds and cattails and the other debris and stuff that it would build up over time in its current state before the project started.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for all your hard work on that. I know it's been a process, but you've been diligent about it, and I appreciate it. Any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion to recommend approval of the construction services proposal from CES in an amount not to exceed $18,000 for the 6th Street Low Flow Channel Project. This work will be paid for from line item 01-5-751-8058. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, motion passed, thank you. And item C, wastewater treatment plant thickening centrifuge repair. Mr. Anderson?
Thank you, Your Honor. Memo in your packet, one of our two Centrisis thickening centrifuges at our wastewater treatment plant needs to be repaired. The cost estimate from Centrisis to make the repairs could be maxed at $40,900. If you look at the attached, you can see that if there's minor repairs, it's $18,800. If it's major repairs, it's up to $38,900. And the shipping to and from site, total of $2,000 is there, regardless of which repair level ends up. So basically, we maxed it out for the $40,900 in anticipation of a worst-case scenario. Hopefully, it turns out to be better than that. I would recommend approval of the proposal from Centrisis for factory repairs to the thickening centrifuge at a cost not to exceed $40,900. This work will be paid for from the sewer depreciation account, and I will also need a motion to waive the bidding process as the cost for the repairs exceeds $20,000.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Stevens?
I'd make the motion to waive and go forward.
Okay, let's start with a motion to waive. Is there a second on that motion? Thank you, Alderwoman Mohal. Any questions or concerns regarding the motion to waive? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, motion passed. And then a motion to recommend the approval of Centrisis as stated regarding the centrifuge at the wastewater treatment plant not to exceed $40,900. Could I have that, get a motion to that effect? Alderman
Make that
Stevens?
motion.
Thank you. And a second. Second by Alderwoman Mohal, thank you. Any questions or concerns regarding that motion? We'll start with Alderwoman Frank.
Thank you, Mayor. So Brent, there's two thickening centrifuges. How is the first centrifuge? Is that in good condition?
They were both basically put in at the same time. I would expect that eventually the second one will have the same rehab, repair work, update work needed to it as well. At this time, it does not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Albertini?
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, looking at this thing, I'm sorry, Brent, this is for you. Looking at these two different quotes, obviously, we're trying to hope for the first one, and if there is a lot more damage done in the future, because I'm not mechanically knowledgeable of this equipment, we can end up with less than this $40,900, is that correct?
That's why it's a not to exceed amount, yes.
So hopefully we go with the lower one. That's what I want to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderwoman Freeman?
Thank you. My question is, this was dated 12/13. Have we already ordered this? Can we get by on one because delivery may take up to 8 weeks? Is that a concern?
Well, unfortunately, we don't have any choice in that matter. It is what it is. So, no, we haven't done the order yet.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Alderwoman Graham-Kowski?
Thank you, Mayor. Brent, Is the warranty 6 months on repaired and replaced parts? Is that just standard?
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor for the approval of the motion on the floor, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, motion passed. Thank you. Thank you, Brent. All right, under 5 other, we have item A, a resolution authorizing the execution of a letter of credit with Midland States Bank guaranteeing payment to Philadelphia Insurance Company. Could I get a motion to that effect? Motion by Alderman Frank, thank you. And a second by Alderman Snow, thank you. Any questions? Alderman Snow?
So does this pertain to the gas pumps and the tanks?
Yes, this is our annual surety required for our fuel system. And it covers both street department and wastewater treatment plant.
Any other questions or concerns? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, motion passed, thank you. And item B is Region 1 Planning Council Data Services Consultant. I had put this on the agenda, and I did have some information on it, but I didn't think it was complete enough, so I laid this on your desk this evening. Obviously, this is to move to the council. The fee on this includes 7 of Region 1 Planning Council members, that being City of Belvedere, City of Rockford, County of Boone, City of Belvedere, of course, City of Loves Park, Four Rivers Sanitation Authority, Village of McChesney Park, and Winnebago County is what makes that up. So the county had already approved this a few months ago, I guess, and I wanted to make sure that, I was hoping that Mr. Dunn from Region 1 could be here this evening. Unfortunately, he cannot. However, I thought this letter was very descriptive. It will come for a second reading at the council meeting. So any questions that you may have, I'll try and answer. It is a data-driven position, and when you look at the letter, I thought some of the highlights was not only assist local governments, but also economic development organizations. And there are a couple, essentially, that this is for socioeconomic analysis, which allow us to be able to court development and have a little bit more data to successfully court development, so as a community. Any questions? I will try and answer it. Alderman Fleury?
Thank you, Mayor. I know you said you just dropped this off for us. I scanned it pretty quickly, but is there anything in here, or do you know what the cost of the city would be if we do this, or are we already doing it, or could you tell us more about that?
I can. So the 7 other planning agencies, or the 6 other planning agencies, 7 in total, will each annually contribute $8,570 per organization. So 8,500 plus.
And that's something that we've already done in the last couple of years, right? Or is this a new, is this on top of the R1?
Actually, this is something different. I know in the past, the city of Belvedere was involved with R1, and I certainly brought that to the council at that time. I don't think people were even aware that we were paying money to be involved with R1, but I did bring it to the council and explain some of the benefits of that. Then, actually, they were involved with any priorities regarding state funding that's available. Now they've been made a federal advocate or representative for any federal funding that goes through Region 1, throughout the 7 municipalities, 6 municipalities, and one, Four Rivers Sanitation is the other one. So, but that actually, I don't think any of the council members knew they were paying. This is something different. This is for data. They've hired an individual, a gentleman by the name of Phil Pittsford. He will help to organize the data and make sure that as some of the decision-making process goes forward, they're prioritized with what may be the best fit for anybody looking to develop. I think it's a small price to pay, but it's certainly the council's choice. But I do think that in conjunction with Growth Dimensions, this doesn't take their place. This actually allows them to use the two. CoStar is one of the real estate information companies that they list for trends, and Lightcast is also another one for industry trends and labor market analysis. And I think that will be beneficial not only to the city of Belvedere, but for anybody else trying to help us. And it's $8,500, $8,570. So, Alderwoman Frank?
Thank you, Mayor. So, are we still members of the North Cog
Yes.
as well? Is there any overlapping of services?
No,
No?
no,
So completely different?
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I know that what had happened before in the past was that many of the investments that were made for communities that were trying to get funding from the state and now from the feds, a lot of times that was made based upon not priority of project, but by political. It was done politically. And I know that R1 had taken the R1 and the North Council of Governments had taken that process and made it a little bit more forthright, a lot more forthright as far as I'm concerned. Because just if you're not the biggest fish in the sea, it doesn't mean your project doesn't deserve to be prioritized ahead of for many years it went to the city of Rockford. But those were political decisions, and I think in that respect, it takes that disadvantage for some of the smaller communities out of the mix. So, but this will be to help with that process, and as I said, I was hoping to have Mr. Dunn here this evening. He will be here next week if in fact this sails through to the council level. So, anybody else? Okay. So I would need a motion to go forward with this, to bring it back to the council with a second. Motion by Alderwoman Frank, and I need a second by Alderwoman Grabkowski. Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. And any opposed? Okay, thank you. Motion passed. And item C, ND. We'll start with item C. In your packet, was a memo from Alderman Snow. That memo deals with the position of a city administrator. For item C, we'll address that first. And so I did enclose that in your packet. So I guess with that being said, I would turn it over to Alderman Snow if you like.
Thank you, Your Honor. And just for clarity, this had nothing to do with Mayor Morris being the current mayor. It was just a general look at potentially doing this. My understanding, Mayor Morris, the going rumor was he was a one and done, so probably wasn't running for re-election. Again, I mentioned this to him at a lunch meeting early on in his administration, this topic. So I formalized it in an email. The whole idea is that before former Mayor Brereton was in office, the mayorship, which I believe was done by Roy Peterson, which I believe is in the audience, was a part-time position and had a full-time administrator. And when Mr. Brereton took over, he took it over at basically, I'm just going to call it glorified alderman pay for whatever the mayor was making. I have no idea. And took over that position for the next 4 years until it was dubbed as a full-time position. Anybody can correct me on my information. Again, this is generic. This is as I see it or know of it. So just looking to see if it's worthy. I believe regardless, if the mayor is the administrator for the city, I believe he should be potentially making more money, and again, this is for discussion purpose, more money than at least the top person, which I believe is the city attorney, but I wouldn't get that. Who's that?
They're not city employees. They're county employees, actually state employees. They're not through the city's payroll at all, and we have no control over that. Wow.
Again, this was for discussion purposes for this conversation. It wasn't meant to steer anything one direction or to come up with a dollar amount associated with anything. It was a top point of starting the conversation. So anyhow, thinking that the mayor could or should potentially make equal or more, slightly more than the highest paid administration person in current positions. Also, if we go to a higher pay scale, potentially the pool of applicants that would run for the position of mayor who might be more qualified than others that might otherwise run might be increased. Or by going to a part-time position, might also increase that position pool by allowing somebody who can't dedicate a full-time position to it, but could provide great leadership and guidance as needed as the mayor as a part-time position. A full-time administrator would have working knowledge of everything they need to and would be able to take over the duties of the current mayor's position, not the current mayor, the current mayor's position. So this is just a point of topic, trying to bring it up and discuss it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Alderwoman Frank?
Yes, I don't like the idea that we get a city administrator that we'd have to pay a lot of money for, because I think that the mayor should be elected, not a appointed position, because we've seen administrators bounce around from community to community, so we'd be replacing them quite often. I think it should be the voters and the taxpayers of Belvedere that vote for the mayor.
Alderman Snow? I assume you want to say something, but,
Yes.
okay.
This doesn't change the position of having a mayor. We would still have a mayor. It just, he would not be required or expected or be here on a full-time basis administering the office to the extent that an administrator would take care of the day-to-day operations. The mayor would still be the one who would make the bulk of any command decisions. He would still run the meeting. He would still have a certain amount of control over certain things. He just would not have the responsibility of running the day-to-day operation. Doesn't eliminate it, doesn't, and as a matter of fact, and again, depending on how we structure it, he would have the initial call as to who to hire for that, possibly with the council's approval. I don't know the ins and outs. That's why we're here to discuss it. Doesn't replace him. And he
Okay,
would still
but
be elected.
who trumps who? Because if the administrator is working full-time, wouldn't she trump the person that's working part-time?
The mayor is still the mayor, and the administrator quasi works for the mayor and for the council / the city. They do not have the overall,
So we want to
Bees
pay
and weeds.
$150,000 to get an administrator?
where did you come up with $150,000?
Well, I know what Becky Tobin's making for the county.
We're not the county.
Just saying.
Okay.
Just discussion, right? I can
It i-
say things that I'm discussing.
It is. Alderwoman Gramkowski.
Thank you, Mayor. I did some research. The administrator for the city of Woodstock makes $206,000. Marion, Iowa, $191,115. Edwardsville, $122. I mean, I get what you're saying, but we're gonna have to, do you have a job spec?
I do not. That would be something that would have to be come up with. We
Who would
also
come up with that?
previously, we had a city administrator before the Brereton administration, if I recall correctly. I
Okay.
don't know if there's any specs that were out there. Again, this is for discussion purposes, just tossing it out there.
Oh, I get that, and I'm just asking questions. So before, back when we had an administrator, what was the population of the city? I mean, we've grown. I mean, I know I moved here 20 years ago, and that was the boom of everything out here. The other thing, because this is kind of in my world, you're going to have to hire a recruiting firm because you're going to have to recruit nationwide. You're going to be paying 30% of that salary plus expenses, relocation. Where's this coming from? I'm just curious. I think and it's up to the people to decide, not us.
Okay, I have a question. We're talking about a 50-50 deal, having a mayor and a administrator. Is there a potential to have just a city administrator without a mayor? Is that an option?
No.
So you have to have a mayor no matter what, part-time or if you have an administrator. Because the thing is, I spoke to a few people prior to this, when I saw this letter, that have been here for years and years. And because I'm not vetted here and I don't understand everything fully, some of them had told me that when there was an administrator for this city, that things seemed more efficient, more dressed as far as the street fronts, because it was done from a business aspect instead of a political aspect. Whereas the political aspect, they said financing got reduced because of worried about elections, what people would think of them. I know I had to worry about that, and I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to do the right thing. Anyways, what I'm saying is they said it looked better when we had an administrator because he voiced his opinion as a businessman, not as a politician or as an elected official. That's just my opinion of what these people had told me. I don't know whether this is fact or not. I wasn't here at this time. I'm just reciting what some of my constituents told me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Alderwoman Gramkowski, I didn't have my mic on.
Thank you. Attorney Drella, would this have to go to a referendum on a ballot for the residents to vote on?
No. But it's a qualified no. No, you can't have a city administrator without a mayor. I'm sorry? You cannot have a city administrator without a mayor. There's another form of government that would require a referendum, which is called the city manager form of government, which you could go to referendum to do. Virtually nobody does that. There's only a few communities in the entire state that are city manager forms of government. The vast majority of communities our size in the state do have city managers or administrators, is a better way to call them. Frequently they have a lot more economic development going on. Points East, They may have a burgeoning residential growth going on, what have you. The benefit to having the city administrator the city administrator is it provides continuity of direction as mayors change. It does free up a lot of time that the mayor is stuck dealing with the day-to-day operations, what employees doing what, how you want to handle things. The mayor's not always stuck going to all the meetings he'd be stuck going to, those kinds of things. But, and this is the huge but, because I heard a couple aldermen say it, one, you're paying 2 salaries. That's currently being done by one person. The city's been very lucky to have 4 mayors now continuously that are more than capable of running the city. From Roy Pearson, Fred Brereton, and Mike Chamberlain to Mayor Morris, they've done a fantastic job running the city. So, you know, there's that to be said for it. The other negative to the city administrator form of government, I think somebody mentioned it, you see them come and go. That tends to be the pattern, especially with the first few administrators you have. I think somebody mentioned, Alderman Snow mentioned the original city administrator, I believe his name was John Colada. He was, I believe, hired by Mayor Peterson. I don't think it lasted 2 or 3 years before Alderman Brereton eliminated the position. I'm sorry, Mayor Brereton. And the reason why that happens a lot is the position only works if the administrator and the mayor see eye to eye, because the mayor has all the power. The mayor typically is the one that appoints the administrator with advice and consent of the council. You cannot take away the mayor's right to veto. You cannot take away the mayor's right to make mayoral appointments. You cannot do anything that would result in a change of form of government. In other words, reducing the power of the mayor without having a referendum. That's even with home rule authority. So what you'd be doing is hiring somebody to run, as Alderman Snow said, the day-to-day operations, overseeing staff, making sure things run smoothly, help prepare the budget, those kinds of things. And the question for the council then is that, almost think of it like I don't want to call it middle management, because it's not. It's upper level management. They'd be essentially the CEO of the city. The mayor, best example would be president of the board. But they'd be serving at the behest of the mayor with advice and consent. And the question is whether the council thinks the city needs that kind of position now.
Okay, then I want to make another comment. Then I think the idea of having a part-time mayor is for what? Ribbon cutting and baby kissing? Because you need a full-time mayor then. There's a lot of work going on and a lot of development going on.
Okay, thank you. Alderwoman Freeman?
So I'm not sure what the mayor's day-to-day schedule looks like, obviously. But I'm assuming it's like meetings with potential developers and stuff like that. But I'm not sure that that is a full-time job, and I'm not sure that we need an administrator, but maybe an entry-level assistant that could maybe help out, you know, fielding all the calls from people complaining about garbage trucks and whatnot. That takes up a lot of the mayor's time, seemingly. So I don't know, maybe let's think about part-time mayor with entry-level assistant helping him out, or her.
I'll go out on a limb for a second beyond where I probably should go. Might regret it tomorrow morning, but city always had administrative assistant for the mayor. It was an administrative assistant that handled the scheduling, handled the phone calls, handled the typing, handled a lot of the secretarial type duties, clerical type duties, and that was also the secretary or assistant to the city attorney. The position was eliminated in 2010 and never replaced because of the recession. Frankly, things fall through the cracks because there's nobody there doing the job. The clerk's office has stepped up hugely and has basically taken over that entire payroll, the entire workload. And has, with first Sean Arco now, Ms. Termseed's help really picked up that slack. But at some point, as workloads continue to increase, the council's probably going to want to consider replacing that position in the future. But that's not a substitute for a full-time position running the city. That person really is clerical staff. You need a full-time mayor or a city administrator.
Sorry, thank you again, but
Yes. Mhm.
as I'm kind of looking at this, if you're going to go with a full-time city administrator, you're going to have somebody that has a master's degree in public administration with a minor in finance, maybe have an employment contract so that they don't, just do a once and done, if you will. So we're going to pay them a pension, we're going to pay them benefits. It's going to be a lot of money for the taxpayers. If what we have now is working, why do we need to tax and spend?
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else have any comments? Alderman Albertini.
Okay, it seems like we're never gonna get anywhere with option one. I'd like to make a motion to dismiss it and move on to option two.
You don't need a motion, there's been no motion made.
It would be more proper to have a motion in the positive and then vote it down, and that way, for the record, there's a motion. But I understand where you're headed with that. I understand. So anyhow, is there any other comments or questions regarding the memo that was in the packet? I will make a comment. Anybody else have any, though? Okay. So I don't believe that it should be up to politicians to entice people to run for office. I haven't decided whether or not that, I know that Alderman Snow had came into my office. It was actually before I'd been in office 1 year. And he had asked me what my future intentions were. And I'll be honest with you, as I was with him, I have no idea. I had 3 years and 2 months left to go in my term. It was very early on. I had no desk when I come into this office. There were no files left behind, and I certainly, it was a learning curve like no other that I've ever had. Only if you want to do the job right, if you want to do it correctly. Certainly, I have there's a lot of big issues that we have with growth in this community, and believe me, just because growth comes knocking on your door doesn't mean that you're going to be able to successfully have them come to Belvedere. I spend an awful lot of time on that. There's a lot of times I'm busy with that on Saturdays, or sometimes here till 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. A part-time mayor is a little bit deceiving, I think, in this respect. It works well. I think the city attorney had said this. It works well as long as you have an individual that has an understanding for the community. I mean, if you hire somebody from outside of the community, I've been here 54 years, and Mayor Brereton and Mayor Peterson had been here their whole life. They'd lived here their whole life. And I think some of the aldermen have been here, if not their whole life, many, many, many years. So when you look at that, I think that in itself doesn't mean that you're going to have an individual. You're going to pay a lot more money, believe me. And I'm not here asking for any kind of a pay increase. As a matter of fact, if you did, I'd veto it, because I didn't accept this job for the money. I accepted this job because I felt that Belvedere was headed in the wrong direction, and I wanted to try either A, to do a better job, or B, I needed to be quiet and probably move out of this community. Item B wasn't an option. Wasn't an option with my wife, believe me. But so I decided to take the option A, but I do think that we can get caught in thinking that we're going to have an administrator, we're going to have somebody else that comes in, they're going to perhaps be able to do a better job. Certainly this job is very political. There are decisions you make, they may seem political, but behind the scenes, I want to do the right thing. And I think that would be my hope, that whoever sits in here wants to do the right thing for the city, for the taxpayers, for their boss. And sometimes doing that, I ran as an independent. And the reason I did that is because I felt that I would accept and go out and market and advocate on behalf of my boss, the taxpayers, to do the very, very best I could, not for me, not politically. I wasn't associated with a party, and that was intentional. I thought, and I still believe, that I'm able to do that as an independent, and I can do that with whoever. I don't have to have gridlock. I don't have to have a partisan political barrier that holds me up from being able to help the city and be able to help the taxpayers. So in that respect, being political and being a mayor, there is no replacement for it, believe me. When you deal with other individuals, whether it be on the state or federal level, they're not looking to see what an administrator or a manager would do for them. They're looking to see what somebody who might work with them and what they need and what they want. They're looking to see how they can help you to successfully solve your problems, and I'm all for it. And I think anybody who sits here should be all for it. And I know some of my predecessors, some of them, not all of them, have been. They have been very good about that. So I think, this, to me, I would ask the question, why? Is there anything that we're unhappy about? And Alderman Snow is correct. This would supersede if I ran again, it would supersede whether I run or not. If I ran, it would be effective if I was successful. Whoever sits up here, it will affect them, but it will affect the city. It will affect your constituents, and it will affect the payroll. It will affect their payroll. So I guess I look at it as, what have we been able to do as a full-time mayor? And it doesn't only point at me, but what have we been able to do? At least I can say from my perspective, we've courted development. We've also been able to keep Stellantis here. My job is a full-time job. I'll tell you what, if you have a part-time mayor and he thinks he can do it part-time, then he's cut out of a different DNA than I am, because I couldn't do that. I wouldn't be able to do that. I believe that if you're a mayor, there's all kinds of responsibilities that go with it, from employees to departments to payroll to economic growth to decisions that are made for the benefit of the community. And I think that anybody who sits in this office ought to have that in mind. And I think that ought to be the priority, not whether or not they can rely on somebody else to do, or I could rely on somebody else to do my work for me. Believe me, I don't do that, and I would never be able to do that. So I think that in itself presents an issue, but as well, I know that there have been an interest in a part-time position. As I said, I don't know how you define that. I don't really think it is definable in any of the state statutes. I don't think they define part-time, full-time, or anything. It's whatever you decide you're going to make of this job. That's what it's about, whatever you can do and whatever you're willing to do and whatever the time you're willing to spend at it. So I'm not convinced that whether or not I seek office again, it really doesn't matter to me. It would be what that process looks like, whether or not somebody is going to rely on an administrator to do work that I think whoever sits here ought to be able to do. I think they ought to be able to advocate for the city, for the taxpayers, and for the benefit of the community. And that's really what I believe. With that being said, I know that Alderman Snow had approached me early on. A few months ago, prior to him putting this memo in, he had asked me whether or not I was going to seek office. I have no idea. I was asked that many, many, many times, and believe me, I don't know what tomorrow holds, and I certainly don't know what a year and 4 months holds. But at some point or other, I will make a decision, as anybody else who wants to seek this office will make, and I wish them, if I don't do it, of course, I would wish them well. So, but I think that's a decision not for the public to make in this, as this memo is written. It's up for the council. The council could make that call. So that is your call to make, but we don't have a motion on the floor. If we're there, that's certainly the council's call. So Alderman Fleury,
Question.
Alderman Fleury first.
For the procedural ways, just, because this was just for topic of discussion, do we need a motion, or can we just go on to the next topic?
Well, you can, but I think as we continue on, if you make a change like this, I think you have to do it by law. It has to be completed within 180 days. So, I mean, if this is something the council wants to do and they're really serious about it, I think that the clock's ticking. And, I think if that's something that they want to do, then I think that would, the goal would be to work towards 180 days. So I don't know. Is there any other information or any other thing that anybody wants to know? I know it was brought forward to the council. I appreciate Alderwoman Gramkowski doing her homework. I think it does show that, probably this position of city manager would probably be, or city administrator would probably be in the area, of, I would imagine, 165 to 180,000, and that might be on the low side. This is a community that is we do have high economic development right now, and we have been able to get it. We have been able to attract it, and we have been able to compete. I had just had talked to the governor last week in order to secure and make sure we did not lose Midwest Generation Services. They were going to leave. The city applied for them, thanks to Finance Director Hanson and Public Works Director Anderson and the city attorney. We had applied on their behalf because they can't, for us to be able to compete, to have them build a $51.8 million facility here. And in order to get that, we relied on the state with DCEO, be able to provide funding, $1 million grant. Why not? We're as entitled to as anybody. But we were able to secure that loan, and we were able to compete with Beloit. Beloit was the other competitor. And believe me, if you looked at the sheet, whenever we started out, I was a little bit dismayed that perhaps we may not be able to get it, but we were able to get it, and that's all part of it. So if people think that, they just come here and they say, yeah, we want to build in your community, that isn't it at all. They have a lot of requests, and you have to iron it out and figure out what's the best way to be able to help them. And that was one way that we were able to get that done. So, but it's up to the council on what you want to do moving forward, and I would certainly go from there. City attorney looks like he wants to say something.
Yeah, just for clarification, the time limit, the time frame the mayor talked about, there is no time frame for a decision as to whether or not you wish to have a new position for a city administrator or any other position that's non-elected for the city. That you can do that whenever you want to, so long as you have budgeted for it. What he was referring to is the change in salaries for elected officials. And it's probably good for you to know this because that time frame is coming up. It's next fall. First thing you need to know is you cannot change the salary of any elected official during their term of office. So no matter what you do, for somebody that's sitting in the chair right now, during that term of office, their salaries cannot go up or cannot go down. You must change, if you want to change a salary, you have to do it, I believe it's 180 days, I have to look up, it might be 160, I believe it's 180 days before the next term of office beginning. So you'd have to do it next fall, effectively October timeframe, November at the latest. And that change would only be for those that would be taking the new office the following May. So when you do that, effectively, if you change, for example, the salary of an alderperson, half your alderpersons are making one amount, the other half are making the other amount until their term is up. So that's what he's referring to for that time frame.
Okay, thank you. Alderwoman Freeman?
Thank you. So, some mayors have brought more and done more for this community than others. You successfully in your first term more than your predecessor in 2 terms, so I do commend you for that. Maybe, and I guess this would be something talked about at budget time, maybe we do need to think about an assistant to help with the mayor's load on, fielding all those phone calls or whatever, emails, and also to help take some of that burden off of the city clerk's office. I'm just gonna throw that out there, and maybe we could talk about that at budget time.
And, you know, I just want to be clear. So I do receive a lot of phone calls, but phone calls aren't, they are not the preponderance of my day in office. I certainly do I'm a pretty good typer. I type all my own, all my own correspondence. I type them all to, from everybody from aldermen to, I'll type them to the governor. I typed them to Senator Durbin, Senator Duckworth, every congressman, and so my correspondence, that takes a lot of my time, believe me, when you don't have that. But I consider it to be part of this position as well, and I think that, as I said before, I think whoever sits in this chair, I think they should, if you take that on this responsibility of the position, I think that that all comes with it. Certainly the phone calls do come with it. I get a lot of phone calls, and I try and return every one of them. I'm usually not successful if they've given me a wrong number or what have you. But even my submissions, I get email submissions during the day, and I, you know, multiple times, and I always return those calls or email them back. But, you know, it's not like probably it was here many years ago. We sit along the I-90 corridor, growth corridor. We'd made an investment under Mayor Brereton of Irene Road interchange. And when we made that investment, I was an alderman on this council. And it was in hopes that we would be able to court job opportunity, business economic development, and a better quality of life, so we could afford a better quality of life without burdening, as Mayor Peterson, so I'm so grateful he did, is that, you know, you can have runaway residential growth and you end up like with a better community, and all you have is expenses for services. And then you got to provide services. You have to provide police services. You have to provide fire service, paramedic service. You have to provide public works service, and you have no revenue stream. And the last thing we want to do is do that. But what we do want to do is we want to take advantage of our geographic location. We want to take advantage of our, we have reliable power. We have affordable water here. All the things that make businesses attract to Belvedere. So all those things take time and effort. And, you know, at one time, when I come into office, I wasn't able to connect the dots because I was too busy worrying about all the things that I didn't know. When I come into office, nobody took me by the hand, or nobody showed me what was going on. I didn't even know what the city's top 10 were. I didn't even know if there was a top 10. And so I certainly, this job evolves around the person, around the individual. And, you know, that's just the way it should be, I think. I think if you have an individual that they're from the community and they want, they really want to do this job, then they'll do it. They'll do it, and they'll do it for whatever. There's no money. To me, there's no amount of money. You know, when I come into this office, I didn't take benefits. I didn't take benefits. I didn't take a medical or any dental or none of those benefits. I didn't take any pension either. You know, to me, I think this position is a term. It's a term, just like every other politician should realize. It's not a career. It shouldn't be a career. But unfortunately, we think if we throw more money at a term, or we throw more money at somebody who's elected, that it's going to be better. I had just read where the city, suburb in Chicago, you have a mayor in there making $200,000 a year for the city of 25,000, essentially the size of Belvedere. And they're going to Las Vegas and they're spending all kinds of money that the taxpayers don't have. And they keep piling on with taxes. So just because you throw more money at an individual doesn't mean you're going to get great results. And it doesn't mean that you're going to get a better individual or more capable, you know. But we have been, as City Attorney Drella pointed out, we have been fortunate in the past, and everything has, there's a certain course that it runs, and this is the course we're on now. We're under a high economic opportunity. We have a chance to court development, and we have a chance to win it, compete and win it. And we've got a good staff. I've got a great staff here. I've got, the city of Belvedere couldn't be in a better position. We've got Public Works. We've got a guy who's been here, 58, 60 years. Actually, that's not true. Sorry, Brent. He's been here nearly 40 years, I think. So, we have our we have our finger on the pulse very well. We have a finance director here who has done a fantastic job. We have, a building department that does an excellent job. And we have, a city clerk. The city clerk office is tremendous, does a tremendous job. We actually do run a pretty small office here. However, it doesn't mean if you throw more money at it that it's going to make it any better, believe me. So that's my opinion. But Alderwoman Gramkowski.
Thank you again. So from what you just said, I mean, I realize how difficult the mayor's job is for any community, but what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing is you have a seat at the table with the governor's office. That takes a lot of finesse, that takes a lot of respect on both ends. So we got to be really careful who we put in as a mayor, because if they're just, somebody out there that just wants the position but doesn't quite understand everything that takes place, we're going to be in deep trouble. So if I just look at it like if it's not broke, we don't fix it.
Okay, I think, when you look, like I said, you look at the mayor's position, and then you look at hiring another individual that, I don't know how long they'll be here. I don't know what they have vested in Belvedere. I have no idea. They may be wonderful. They may be excellent. They may be. They may very well be. But it doesn't mean that you have to pay more money to get, and make a mayor part-time. And like I said, I don't know how I would ever do that job. I wouldn't consider it part-time. I would consider the mayor's job a job that the citizens have entrusted you to do, and you should do it, and you're accountable. You're accountable for it. And I think the city attorney had pointed out, if you have an impasse between a city administrator and the mayor, essentially the mayor would go to the council and have him probably removed. And you could do that as well. But ultimately, it ought to be the mayor, whoever seeks this office, and whoever's entrusted to do the job, they should be up to do the job. If they're not, then they probably picked the wrong profession. Okay? Anybody else? Okay. Is there anything, a motion on the floor on this? Does anybody want to proceed with item C? Okay. All right, then item D is elected official salaries. Alderman Snow.
Again, I believe the clerk's position, which has probably been stagnant since 2011 or longer, is probably worthy of an increase of some sort. And I just arbitrarily in my memo just put $10,000 a year, just a conversation point. Again, if nobody wants to do this, nobody makes a motion, but just throwing it out there for discussion.
It's the pleasure of the council. The floor is open. You certainly can, Alderwoman Frank.
I don't want to make a motion, but I'd like to make a comment. I agree with Alderman Freeman. This should be discussed during budget time, not now.
And,
Alderman Snow.
and again, because this is an elected position, it has to be done within a certain amount of time frame. So if we don't initiate the conversation and get it started, we don't even have to budget it in at this year coming up, because it doesn't take effect. I'm not sure actually when your clerk's position is up. 2025. So it wouldn't affect that until that date. So, again, it's just a conversation point. I'll go ahead and make a motion to raise the clerk's position by $10,000 per year for the next cycle of election.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Second by Alderwoman Freeman. Any discussion? Alderwoman Gramkowski?
I'm sorry, thank you.
Mhm.
In the Illinois Municipal League book, it has to be 180 days before the election, and so this wouldn't impact the current city clerk. And before we raise it $10,000, I sure would like to see the roles and responsibilities. I mean, I'm not saying that I agree or disagree, I just want it, I don't want to arbitrarily spend more taxpayers' money just to say, give so-and-so a raise. Because I think you asked for it as well for the, let's see, the treasurer? Dan?
I do mention the treasurer's position, maybe something to look at as well, because they do spend quite a bit more time than most of the aldermen do here at City Hall.
But that's their job, I get that, but, so now you're asking for 20,000 more.
I never put a dollar amount with the, I don't recall putting a dollar amount with the treasurer's position.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor then. Any other comments, any discussion? Alderwoman Frank?
I'd just like to make a comment. $10,000 a year raise every year is quite, isn't that what he said?
It's 10,000 to what they already get right now, what the current position is. It's not 10,000 increase every year. It's 10,000. I don't know how much, generically speaking, how much
It
does
says
the clerk
$10K per year.
increase it? 10K per year. The increase from the current amount for the year. I'm not concurring 10 years, 10,000, another 10 the next year, and another 10 the next year.
That's what it says per year.
I think I meant almost 68,000.
So 68,000, it would go up to 78,000. It would stay that way for 4 years or until somebody else changed it, but it would be locked in for 4 years.
Okay. Alderwoman Gramkowski?
Thank you. I did a little research on that too. So I've got Loves Park clerks, they make $55,319. And the Freeport clerk makes $23.43 an hour. That's what I found just quickly. So again, this is taxpayer money. We better think about that.
I would say you had the right question as far as what are the responsibilities of office, because clerks around the state all have different responsibilities. Many of them, they attend the meetings, they do the minutes, they certify the records, and that's about it, because those cities have an HR department. We do not. I kind of head it up, but the clerk's office handles all payroll, all benefits, all the health insurance, oversees it's more than the clerk's duties. So your comment earlier about seeing what the duties are is very appropriate.
And also, there's an assistant city clerk, is that correct?
There's a deputy
Deputy
clerk,
clerk,
which
okay,
is
thank
provided
you.
for by statute, as well as an assistant city clerk, that role is pretty much the general administrative assistant for the city. They're the gatekeeper and everything that comes into City Hall.
So the clerk's office has 3 individuals running it, or
Total.
working. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Any other comments? Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second then. Motion on the floor, as I understand it, is to raise the clerk's salary by $10,000 per year for the term. It's for the term, but each year is part of a term, so per year of that term, yeah. So her salary, that salary would increase from 68,000, I'm sorry, 100?
All right, when I search salaries, Madam Finance Director, I can't find what I'm looking for. Anyway. I'll go into finance. It's probably in finance. Yeah. Budget. Whatever.
Okay. Alderwoman Gramkowski, then Alderwoman Freeman.
Sorry, thanks
No,
again.
no worries.
So we're talking about $10,000 per year for the clerk's position, whoever that may be in the future. Are we also raising the salaries for the deputy clerk and the assistant clerk, or the admin?
No, that would be done under the budget, their regular salary, they're not elected.
You're right.
Okay, thank you. Alderwoman Freeman.
Thank you. So this would be not go into effect until 2025 for whoever wins that election. So could this be actually renegotiated, rediscussed in either this budget year or next year's fiscal budget year?
While the budget has to budget for the salaries, these are actually not set by the budget ordinance whatsoever. These are set specifically by separate ordinance. And once they are set, they cannot be changed during the term of office, nor within 180 days of that term of office. So if you change it and get past next fall, no, you cannot change it for the next 4 years' terms of office. It'll be locked in.
Okay, and is that correct that that position has not had an increase since 2011?
It has been a very long time. I'd have to look back and see
That
how
is
long.
not correct.
I'm not sure how long it's been, but I know
Look at the city code, I think you can see,
it actually will be in the code, you're right.
it
Hang
is
on
in
one,
the city code, and
back up 1 second and
I
I'll let
think
you
they
know.
did it differently, like it was a certain amount each year of the.
City code. Doo-doo-doo-doo. I want to go to administration, I think. And general be. Where would I put this? Officers, clerk, salary. Okay, so, and we actually do, make these changes, we make them as part of our code. We actually adopt it as an ordinance. Section 2-238, let's see, effective May, we adopted ordinance 31H in 2016, effective May 1 of 18. The salary was set at $67,020. Effective May 1 of 19, it was set at $67,690. And effective May 1 of 20, it was set at the current amount of $68,367. So the last raise was May 1 of 20. The last time the city council voted to increase it was 2016 and set forth a staggered increase.
Alderman Snow?
And just for clarity, any decision that's made here doesn't stop us from having another discussion and either, if this fails, re-look at it and do it again, or even decrease it if so looked at budget time, as long as it met the 180 days before the election.
Correct, as long as you do it by next fall.
Yep. Alderman Albertini?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm trying to recollect my memory. About 2-3 months ago, I remember a little discussion going back and forth, and a statement made by you that you felt that the city clerk was the most overworked and underpaid employee, other than the fact that she's an elected official, not a city employee. But you did feel that she was overworked and underpaid. Was this a correct statement? that I remember hearing.
I don't remember saying overworked and underpaid. I do remember, I do know that the city clerk, I think she does an excellent job. I'm not trying to sway the council's decision on what they do. I don't recall that, but I don't deny that I think that our city clerk, we're fortunate to have her. There's no question about it. I work with her every day, but I don't know, I don't want to have words put in my mouth. I do think that, I know she's an asset to the city. I believe she's a very, very hard worker, and I enjoy working with her. There's no question about it. The question would be, what the council chooses to do. But I don't want to be deemed as an advocate or as an opponent. But I do know that she has a fantastic work ethic, I will tell you that. There are times that I'm here late at night and she's past, I leave, and she's here. And I always say goodnight, but yeah, so she's here, she spends a lot of time above and beyond, but it's up to the council to determine what they're gonna do with that, not up to me.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome, thank you. Alderman Snow?
And again, this is not specifically geared toward Ms. Turnipseed. It is geared toward the position of the clerk, which has assumed all those responsibilities and takes care of a lot of that work that needs to be done. It is not necessarily geared. I give Sarah kudos for all she does. Great gal, but it is for that position, not necessarily for her specifically as an individual.
Okay. Yep, Alderwoman Graham-Kowski.
Sorry, thank
No,
you
no,
again.
no.
And Alderman Snow, you're right, it isn't about the person, it's about the position, because Sarah may not run again, or she may, we don't know. In the future, if we set this at for the next city clerk, whether they're good or bad, they're gonna get that salary. The other question I have is, would this in any way undercut union contract talks? I mean, could they come back and say, hey, you're giving raises to the elected officials, what about us? That's what I worry about.
I think, is that a reality? Certainly, that would be a reality. Is that a issue? I don't know. That would be something that, the city has an expenditure for either, be the mayor, the city clerk, or the alderman, whatever. It's an elected position. So I don't know how I don't know how they would think about that, but probably if I was sitting negotiating for them, I probably would. I think anybody would try and use that as a point. Yep. Appreciate it. Alderwoman Mulhall.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just to share, that has already happened. I have several text messages on my phone from someone that saw Alderman Snow's request to discuss these, and yeah, the ball is loose now, so be prepared for anything that happens. I think some people are not going to be happy.
Okay. Any other comments? Alderman Fleury.
This is for city attorney. You said the last effective pay raise was 2020. That was the last time it was raised.
The last ordinance raising was adopted in 2016. The last actual raise occurred May 1 of 20.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other questions? Okay. You know what? We've been talking about this so long, I forgot where I'm at. Can you help me out? Do we have a motion? We have a motion on the floor. Thank you. And so we have a motion on the floor, and that would be increase that $10,000.
Could we get a roll call?
We certainly can. If we need it. Do you think we need it? Okay. Okay. All right. You have the motion on the floor. All those in favor will, when their name is called, answer aye. Any opposed, nay. As the clerk calls the roll, please.
Albertini?
Aye.
Brereton,
No.
Flurry,
No.
Frank,
No.
Freeman,
Aye.
Gramkowski,
No.
McGee,
Nay.
Mulhall,
Nay.
Snow,
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
4 in favor.
Okay, motion failed. For the evening, that is all that we have on our agenda. Could I please have a motion to adjourn?
We hadn't talked about the treasurer's position, and I would ask if
okay.
Rick Brereton, who was the former treasurer, had any input on it.
Well, gee, thank you.
And you don't
Yeah, I
have to
have
say,
some
you don't
input
have
on
to
it.
say anything.
No, I have some input on it, actually. I'd like to see the treasurer be more involved instead of less involved, I'll say that.
Okay. Alderman Fleury, and then Alderwoman Gramkowski.
Right, so I know. Whoops, sorry, elected official salaries. Can we also talk about alderman salaries as making a motion here?
It's not on the, is that on here?
Well, it just says elected officials.
Sure, I suppose you can, yeah.
Right, so I've talked about this before during budget time. I know whenever we talk about increases, I always said that, you know, money is where my mouth is, and I would propose a 10% decrease to alderman salaries. I know that it's gonna take some time for that to go into effect, but I think that a lot of time the taxpayers think that, you know, alderman pay isn't a crazy amount, but it's still amount of money, but I would still want to reduce it that way. So whenever I talk about raising something like raising the city clerk's pay or the city planners raises, that we're not just arbitrarily coming up with this money, that I'm putting my money in my mouth as my actual pay as an alderman. So I guess my motion would be to reduce alderman's salary by 10%.
Second.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion on the floor then, to reduce the alderman salary by 10%. Anybody else? Anybody have any comments?
Roll call.
Let's see if anybody else wants to comment. There will be half of the aldermen that will be affected, and the other half will not. They will go another 2 years into their 4-year term. I'm sorry, Alderman Stevens.
I'd also like to see that if you miss a meeting, you don't get paid like a regular employee. So, you don't show up, you don't get paid.
So do we have a motion and a second on?
We do.
Okay.
We have-
The current manner in which your aldermanic salaries are done is an annual salary. The only way to accomplish that goal would be to completely change the way you pay them, go the way the county does it, which is on a per meeting basis. The two, you can't do both together, you have to do one or the other. Suppose you could do somebody they can't dock pay.
Question.
Alderman Snow?
Regardless, we would still have to set a dollar amount in which to start with. So that doesn't negate this.
But you'd either do as a per meeting basis or a
Right, so
annual salary.
a further motion could be made at this point after we get past this motion.
Sure.
Okay. So I think, I'm sorry, Alderwoman Mohall?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just to be clear, so this motion that's on the floor is only affecting those that will be running this coming.
Well,
And then the other half stays
that
with
is-
their extra 10%.
until that election takes place, yes, correct. Mhm. Okay. All right, anybody else? Any other comments, any other questions? Alderman Fleury?
And just to be clear, I'm the next one up in the part of the 5 that will be elected next time. So I'm not putting the 10% on something that's not going to affect me for 6 years. It's coming up in 2 years. So more than willing to stand by that, to have, again, the clarification, it's a reduction.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Alderwoman Frank?
Yes, when I ran, I didn't even know there was a salary. So I didn't do this for the money, but I do work really hard for my constituents, and I'm getting a lot of calls, and they're not even from my ward. So I work all the areas in town, not just my ward. So I'm not saying that I need it because I'm working so hard, but some people work as hard as they can, and some people don't have to work as hard, but it's up to you. And I put a lot of work in it.
Okay, I know you do, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so the motion then is to reduce the alderman's salary by 10%, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Anybody else?
Can we get a roll call on this?
We sure can. So, all those in favor of the motion on the floor will, when their name is called, answer aye. Any opposed, nay. As the clerk calls the roll, please.
Brereton,
No.
Flurry,
Aye.
Frank,
Nay.
Freeman. Aye. Gramkowski,
No.
McGee,
No.
Mulhall,
No.
Snow,
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
Albertini,
Aye.
5 in favor.
Well, you guys put me in a dilemma. And here's why. Because I do agree, one part of me agrees with the fact that I know I was an alderman for 3 terms. I served as an alderman for 12 years, and I know that, I read all my information, and I tried to be a part of each administration that I served under. I served under Mayor Peterson, Mayor Brereton, and Mayor Chamberlain, and I know that I did my level best to represent the constituents. And it's not an easy job, I'll tell you that. You guys it can be a hard job. So part of the individuals are saying, yes, they want a reduction, but then again, it doesn't, what the aldermen are paid isn't a lot of money. It isn't a lot of money. Is it $7,200 annually, is that right? So it's $7,200 annually. I think, with that being said, I think Alderman Stevens had touched on part of the issue, and that being, if we're not present, you can't represent, right? And I'm not trying to throw barbs at anybody. I'm just saying that if we're not present, then in fact, no matter what you're paid, I guess you're not here. And there might be a case for I haven't earned it. And I think that's fair. I think that it's also, I understand that when I was an alderman, I worked. I had children, I had obligations, and I worked for a living. So I understand that the individuals here who have to work, I understand how that goes. I mean, but in the future, you're going to have to look at how are you going to attract individuals that want to serve the community. For people that hardly ever, that are here all the time, I think, you have aldermen and alderwomen that are here all the time. Is that a lot of money for what you do? Probably not. So it really puts me in kind of a quandary, but I would say that the council should explore the fact of if you're here, then you should be paid. If you're not here, then I think that's difficult because essentially, you earn your money, but if you're here, right? Whether or not we agree or not, whether or not I agree with, whether or not we agree, which most of the time we do, that's besides the point. The point is that people have to be present to be able to have any kind of input. So I'm going to vote, I'm going to ask that the council, Alderman Stevens had made a point of that you should be paid. I think the county does that. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody? I believe they do that. And so I think, when I was an alderman, I'd actually proposed that. When I was an alderman, I'd proposed, made a motion that we should be paid for attendance. And I did that, I did it twice, and it failed twice. So I think that's fair. So with that being said, I'm going to vote no on that, but I am going to ask that the council, if they're serious about a reduction, then they look at being paid by their attendance to the meeting. And so that's what I would say. So I guess the motion fails, correct?
Yes, because I would really like to see paid per meeting. And if you're going like 18 meetings a year, you don't get nothing.
Well, is that something you want to make as a motion this evening?
And before you make that
Oh, wait a
motion,
minute.
I will say you can't do that. That cannot be done under Illinois law. I can research if you'd like whether we have the same ability as the county to go on per meeting basis. I believe we do, but I can research that. But you can't, it's gotta be whatever it is and it's locked in. You cannot decrease the salary of an alderman during the term of office. So you can't say, well, you've missed 10 meetings now, you don't get paid. You have to do either per meeting basis or the salary. And I can research our per meeting basis possibility. The council does have options to force recalcitrant, that's a big word, people that come to meetings. You have a way to force people that don't come to meetings to meetings. And the council also, while we've never used it, does have the ability to declare the position vacant if people are not coming to meetings. There are ways around that. The difficulty you have is are they not coming in because they're sick and they just can't get here for a little while, but they're gonna be better, well, start doing their job again, or, are they facing family things that we all face, that they miss 5 or 6 meetings in a row? It happens, right? So that's the dilemma the council faces, and this council has faced that, not the people at the table here, but some of you were here when we faced that dilemma in the past, and they chose not to exercise those rights.
Alderman Snow.
So I would ask that next month, that topic of per meeting topic
Sure.
be brought up, and we can discuss it.
Okay. All right. Alderwoman Graham-Kowski.
Thank you. And Attorney Drella, to your point, with somebody being sick or whatever for 5 or 6 meetings, they're probably not serving their ward either.
Certainly weren't.
I would think that the council may want to take a look at that. I do know that it's hard for individuals to participate in an elected office. It's not easy, believe me, in any office. And aldermen or alderwomen, probably you're going to be 50-50 chance that people are going to disagree with you, but it's a hard job. But when it's done correctly, I think the county is a good example with that, and I think maybe if you explore that, but that was under the pretense that I had voted that against that motion to reduce alderman salary, because I think aldermen have a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of things that go with this job. A lot of people work, and in the future, whoever it is, we may not be here. I may not be here. You may not be here, but you want to have individuals that are sacrificing the time, maybe away from their family or what have you, and that are here. You want to make sure that you're able to at least provide, a reasonable amount of pay for that. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to do it for free. But $7,200, what is that? $600 a month. So anyhow, I agree with that, Alderman Snow, and maybe that's how we should proceed. Alderman Fleury?
As we look into that, is it possible, I know you have to do some research, but my question would be like, could you miss, say, come up with a number, whether it be 2 meetings a year or 4 meetings or some kind of meeting, or is it just you miss the meeting or you don't miss the meeting? There's no leeway in that?
I can look into that. I don't believe so, but I can look into it.
Yeah.
The thing is, because sometimes people have vacations that you just can't get around. I get it, you're not helping your ward that particular week, but I don't think you should necessarily be penalized. But if whatever the number is, it's 2 meetings, 10 meetings, whatever we came up with as a thing, is that even possible? I think that'd be a fairer way to handle that, whether you think of 1 1/4 or whatever the magic number is, as opposed to zero tolerance.
I can research that. I mean, and the reality is people are on vacation. They might still be doing their job. They might not be here voting, but doesn't mean they're not taking phone calls or answering emails.
Alderman Snow?
And another thing to consider is what, if anything, it does tracking the payroll, how much of a, and that's gonna guide everything, but something to consider that it does affect the clerk's office who handles the payroll. Just talking out loud.
So on a lighter note, to belabor the meeting, looking at the most accurate information possible on the internet from salaries.com, the average salary for an alderman in Illinois is $38,000 a year. That can't be right. Well, yeah, it is average. And Chicago, one site says it's only like 30-something, but this site says they're making $142,000 a year to be an alderman in Chicago.
That's right.
I'm not saying it's a good idea. I just, like I said, on a lighter note.
Yeah, and I think that supports my statement about just because you pay more money doesn't mean you're getting anything in return. So anyhow, are we in agreement on that then? Move forward with that and see. Alderwoman Freeman, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate, a lot more goes into being an alderman than just showing up at the meeting. Some don't read their packets and just show up and vote. Some spend a lot of time researching, and some participate in discussions, some don't. You can't really, some spend a lot of time at home on phone calls, emails, talking to people. Some of us actually go around our neighborhoods and talk to our constituents door to door, even when it's not an election year. So it's not, Monday night is like one night, right? Mostly an hour. So whether you're here voting on committee, but you're here voting on council, it's the same topic.
It is, and we should also keep in mind that in order to represent our constituents, we have to be able to vote. So if we're not here, we don't vote. That's part of the representation, maybe perhaps the biggest part, but I hear that. Anyhow, anybody else? Thank you. We have a motion to adjourn by Alderman Snow and a second by Alderman Albertini. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And anybody want to stay? Thank you. For the record, we adjourned at 8:07 p.m. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time.